All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about the original information superhighway, the technology that first made our big world feel a little bit smaller, the telegraph. Now, this isn't just a story about dots and dashes. Nope. This is the story of how we, as a species, first figured out how to send a thought faster than a horse could run, and how that changed, well, everything.
I mean, can you even wrap your head around that? Before the 1800s, information was literally stuck to the speed of a ship or a train. If you sent a letter from London to New York, it was on a boat for weeks, and you just had to hope it got there. The telegraph? Well, that's the tech that blew that physical speed limit to smithereens for the very first time.
Okay, so to really get how big of a deal the electric telegraph was, we have to rewind. We have to go back to a world totally without wires. For centuries, the smartest people on the planet were obsessed with one problem. How do we send a message faster than a messenger can travel? This was the age of trying to send messages through the air.
Now, here's a really key distinction. You had ancient systems, right, like beacon fires. Super clever, but they could only send one or two preset messages, like we're under attack. But a true telegraph system is something else entirely. It uses a code, like an alphabet, so you can send any message you want. It's the difference between a fire alarm going off and being able to send an email explaining exactly what's happening.
And that brings us to the first real breakthrough, the optical telegraph. Just picture this, a line of towers, each one close enough to see the next. On top of each tower, an operator moves these big wooden arms to make different shapes. The guy in the next tower sees it with a telescope, copies the shape, and sends it down the line. It's like a giant mechanical game of telephone. And oh boy, did it succeed. That very first message was sent by the inventor Claude Chope in France. His system was so good that Napoleon's government built a huge network of these towers. Get this, in 1794, they got news of a military victory in Paris less than an hour after it happened. In an age of horses, that was basically science fiction. It must have felt like absolute magic.
But for all its genius, the optical telegraph had a fatal flaw. It was useless at night, useless in the fog, useless in a storm. You can't build the future of communication if it depends on good weather. The real answer? Well, it was hiding in this mysterious, powerful new force everyone was just starting to figure out: electricity.
And once it started, the revolution was incredibly fast. I mean, look at this timeline. In barely 20 years, the electric telegraph goes from a new patent to a network that stretches across the entire United States. It was Samuel Morse's simple, tough, single-wire system and his famous code that really took over and became the standard for connecting the world.
You know, the telegraph and the railway were kind of like the power couple of the 19th century. They absolutely needed each other. The trains needed the telegraph to coordinate traffic and, not crash into each other. And the telegraph needed the railways because they had already cleared these long, straight paths across the country. It was the perfect pre-made route to string up all those wires.
Okay, so connecting cities and countries is one thing, but the final frontier, the ultimate challenge, was the ocean. How on earth do you get a wire to work across thousands of miles of deep, crushing salt water? It was just an epic struggle. First, they had to find something to insulate the wire, which they found in this weird natural latex called gutta percha. The first big attempt in 1858 was a total heartbreaker. It actually worked for a few days. Queen Victoria sent a message and everything, and then it just died. So finally, in 1866, they brought in the big gun, the SS Great Eastern, the largest ship in the world at the time. It was an absolute behemoth, and it was the only thing that could get the job done, finally laying a cable that would last.
And this one number tells you so much about the power of this new global network. The British Empire, which was at its peak, basically owned the information age. They built what was called the All Red Line, a web of cables connecting all their colonies and territories, making sure London was always in control. It was the first truly global network.
So, just as the entire planet is getting wrapped up in these expensive, difficult-to-lay wires, a new generation of inventors started asking a pretty crazy question. What if we don't need the wires at all? What if we could just cut the cord?
And this is where a young Italian inventor named Guglielmo Marconi comes in. He got totally obsessed with these newfangled Hertzian waves, what we now call radio waves. He just knew he could use them to send messages. His secret weapon was figuring out that grounding his gear would massively boost the signal's range. And after a few successes, he went for the Holy Grail. In 1901, he did the impossible. He sent a single Morse code letter, S, all the way across the Atlantic.
The impact of going wireless was immediate, especially for ships at sea. and its importance became tragically, undeniably clear with the sinking of the Titanic. The ship's wireless operator frantically sent out distress calls, which were picked up by another ship, the Carpathia. That ship raced over and saved more than 700 people. All of a sudden, wireless wasn't just a cool invention, it was a literal lifeline.
But as we all know, technology never stops moving. The very success of the telegraph created the world that would eventually replace it. It was the end of one era, sure, but it was also the beginning of, well, pretty much everything that came next.
And you can see the disruption happened right here in this chart. Telegrams hit their all-time peak in 1929, but look at that other line, the telephone, which was steadily climbing. The phone offered something the telegraph just couldn't, the sound of a human voice. In a weird twist of fate, the technology that grew out of the telegraph ended up being the thing that replaced it. But don't for a second think the telegraph just vanished. Its legacy is literally baked into the modern world. It created the idea of a global financial market. It started the first newswire services. It literally forced countries to create standardized time zones. And it also opened up thousands of new, skilled jobs, particularly for women, who turned out to be amazing telegraph operators.
If you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this idea right here. For all of human history before this point, communication could only move as fast as a person could carry it. The telegraph was the first thing to sever that link. It set the message free from the messenger. And that one change made all the difference.
And I'll leave you with this last little thought. People back then were actually worried that the telegraph would flood the world with too much trivial, out-of-context information from faraway places, and that it would ruin serious conversation. Anxieties about a new technology overloading us with junk? Sound at all familiar? It seems some debates really are timeless.